Time to call the meeting to order. If you would, please stand, remove your caps. Brother Dishman is going to lead us in prayer, and then Boy Scout 331 will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
We thank you for this day, Father. We thank you for this gathering here and the ones that's come out. As we conduct the business of this city, let us do it according to what you want us to do, according to what we can go home and be clear and minded with, Lord. We'll be with the ones that are less fortunate, the ones that are not here, the ones that are sick, and the ones that are on the road. We just give you the praise and honor and glory for it all. Do your will. In Jesus Christ's name, amen.
Amen. Boy Scout Troop 331.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Boy Scout Group 331. Roll call, everyone is here, but Alderman Langford, which is out of town. Need a motion to approve the minutes of last month's meeting.
So moved.
Motion made by Alderman Coleman. Is there a second? Second by Alderman Speck. Any discussion on the minutes? All for the motion, let it know by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay. All opposed, like sign. Motion passed. Is there any additions or deletions to the agenda?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to just add a recognition to city employees at the end, please.
Okay. Item number 8. Well, I guess if I'm gonna add it, you need to make the motion.
Oh, I make a motion that add number 8, city employee recognition, please.
Second.
Motion made by Alderman Coleman, second by Alderman Dodson. Any discussion? All for the motion, let it know by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Motion passed. That'd be item number 8 on the agenda. Item number 1, old business, reading of ordinance 2019-2-1, rezone of the Hicks property from C3 to R1 as recommended as from the Livingston Planning Commission.
Make a motion with it.
Motion made by Alderman Dishman. Is there a second?
Second.
Second, Alderman Coleman. Any discussion? All for the motion, let it know by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Motion passed. Item number 2, reading of ordinance 2019-2-2, Property Maintenance Advisory Board. Property Maintenance Advisory Boards are the following: Ms. Angela Dixon, Mr. Randall Austin, Mr. Daniel Elder, Ms. Barbie Roberts, Ms. Matilda Speck, Mr. Mitchell White, Mr. Ken Dodson.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion to accept as presented.
Motion made by Alderman Coleman.
Second.
Second by Alderman Speck. Any discussion? All for the motion, let it know by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Motion passed. Item number 3, under old business, reading of ordinance 2019-2-3, amend Title 8, alcoholic beverages.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make an amendment to that title to amend to exclude any other city-owned properties. Parks, I'm sorry.
Any city-owned parks. Motion made by Alderman Chris Speck.
I'll second
Make
that.
the amendments to no other city parks. Second by Alderman Dishman. Is there any discussion?
Would it be city parks or city locations?
City parks, city-owned parks.
Mr. Mayor, do we not need to pass it as is and then amend it?
Well, we need to go with the,
No.
with the amendment. Right. And go with the amendment. So we got a motion and a second. Motion made by Alderman Speck, second by Alderman Dishman. Is there any discussion? Roll call vote, Ms. Phillips.
Alderman Dodson,
Yes.
Alderman Spade,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Greenwood.
Yes.
Alderman Coleman.
Yes.
Alderman Dishman.
Yes.
That was 5 yes.
5 yes, motion passes. So now you go with the amendment, with the ordinance. We voted on the amendment, now you go with the ordinance amending the Livingston Municipal Code, Title 8, alcoholic beverage to allow consumption of alcohol beverages in Central Park and no other city parks. Need that in a motion.
I'll make that.
Motion made by Alderman Speck,
Second.
second by Alderman Coleman. Any discussion? Roll call vote, Ms. Phillips.
Alderman Speck.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Greenwood. Alderman Coleman.
Yes.
Alderman Dishman.
Yes.
Alderman Dotson.
Yes.
5 yes, motion
Motion
passed.
passed unanimously. Under new business, item number 1, CenterPoint Energy, Mr. Zach Littrell. Did I miss one? Excuse me, Alan, I missed one. Second reading on ordinance 2019-2-4, amend chapter 1, title 13 related to property maintenance regulations. My bad. You've had an opportunity to take a look at the property maintenance regulations.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion that we accept on second reading.
Motion made by Alderman Coleman.
Oh, just a minute, I got a statement on that.
There's a motion on the floor. I need a second before we go to discussion. Need a second.
Second.
Second discussion, Mr. Dishman.
Okay, I just thought the record, it's brought to my attention, the record to show that I've had time now to read this, but nobody except Alderman Coleman had a copy of this. The Mr. White done a good job. I will compliment him on reading what he had. I compliment him on reading it. But you didn't have a copy of it. The only one that had it last month was Mr. Coleman, and that's why that I didn't vote on that and to pass it, because I like to read stuff ahead of time, and I just want the record to show that nobody had a copy of that, including you, Mayor, till your secretary went and made some.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to correct that statement. That is absolutely false. The copy that was emailed to the alderman was actually in all of our hands. I happen to have the outdated copy with me at the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. There's a motion and a second. Any more discussion? Roll call, Ms. Phillips.
Vice Mayor Greenwood.
What are we voting on now?
This is the property maintenance.
Yeah, yes,
Item number 4.
yes.
Alderman Coleman.
Yes.
Alderman Dishman.
No.
Alderman Dotson.
Yes.
Alderman Speck.
Yes.
4 yes, 1 no, motion passed.
4 yes, 1 no, motion passes. Item number 1, under new business, CenterPoint Energy, Zach Littrell is not here, so we have Mr. Allen.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm Alan Lingerfeld with CenterPoint Energy Services. We deliver gas to you on a daily basis, and the Mayor asked kind of to do a natural gas kind of update. I'll be short. If you have questions, I'll be happy to try to answer them. As everybody can see, watching the weather, the winter's trying to make one last push this week. Looks like winter may be over by the end of Thursday. And the rain's may get back by the weekend. It's not a good thing. But I wanted to kind of just go over some of the influencers that we're going to see over the next short term and some long term. Short term, we're seeing extremely cold weather in the Midwest from Kansas City. I've got a colleague that works there, and they have seen extreme winter this year where we have not here. Our winter's been somewhat mild. I saw the local news, or heard on the local news today driving up here, that Wednesday morning, Thursday morning may be the coldest temperatures we're going to see since January. So maybe where he didn't kind of show up for us. So with that said, mild weather, you don't sell as much gas as you do in a normal winter atmosphere. So just keep that in mind as you go forward. This winter may not play out to be as good a winter as we would like to make the 12-month budget. So, along those lines, storage nationwide is at is below a 5-year average because of the cold weather that we saw in the Midwest and partially the Northeast. The Northeast is the area that pretty much uses the bulk of the natural gas in the United States because it's the highest populated areas. So they influence the cost of gas probably more so than the state of Tennessee because we're kind of middle of the weather patterns. So that does put strain on future supplies, as well as if you look at the next 30 days, it looks like it's going to be an early spring. So you know that should help pricing, but it doesn't help gas sales for the city to collect revenue. So I'd just be cognizant of that. Going into summer, we get a couple of different weather forecasts from different companies. We don't forecast the weather ourselves. We try to rely on the experts to do that. It's hard to sometimes, as you know. But April is looking like it's going to be normal to above normal. And it seems like the weather patterns this last 3 to 5 months, there's kind of a line drawn through the upper state of Kentucky. Everything above that line has been extremely cold. Everything below has been kind of mild. And it seems to be going to stay in that pattern for a while until we get to summer. Summer is, they're projecting summer to be, for the entire region, hot, similar to last year, but not as hot as last year. That is an influencer on futures gas pricing. The hotter it is, the more power generation has to use natural gas to fire, to provide electricity. And as I stated earlier, they're going to be trying to make up supplies into storage, so there's going to be a demand for gas there. So those two influencers are what we're seeing right now. That's going to kind of keep the price of gas propped up a little bit until we see that there's not going to be a hot summer, or that influence may or may not be there by July or August. So that's a concern we do have. Last year was the 9th hottest on record. So that is a huge influencer when you start looking at all the power generation that is used over the United States. And we're going to be projected to be not as hot as last year, but almost. So, moving on. As you know, I guess the last time we spoke, the East Tennessee Natural Gas Pipeline, which is the gas line that brings gas to the city of Livingston, had a pipeline rupture back in December. We are still dealing with that rupture. They've corrected to get gas flowing, but they're only flowing at 80% capacity. That is going to be, it's going to be scheduled in April to be taken back down for 2 weeks. So zero flow will be coming through that pipe. We're doing everything in our planning efforts to accommodate that issue and make sure gas shows up at Livingston. So I don't know that they've actually set the dates on it. They're trying to watch the weather patterns. If it turns colder, they're going to push it to May. So just to give you an update there.
Yeah, Alan, I don't mean to interrupt you, but just to make sure that we're really clear on this, because we have a lot of manufacturers that don't necessarily use our natural gas for heat, but they use it as part of the product. So in the event in April that it was to be cut off East Tennessee, you guys will make sure there's an alternative
We
line coming to us.
We should see a similar situation that we saw at the end of December when we made gas show up from other directions. So as as long as you see pressure at the gate, you're getting gas. That's the main thing.
Okay,
So-
thank you.
And they're going, East Tennessee is, if they see cold weather coming in like we're getting tonight, they're probably gonna postpone it and not do it during a period. You know, last April was pretty cold, so they, you know, if they see that kind of formation of weather showing up, they're probably gonna postpone it till May. So,
Thank you. Is there any questions for Al?
Do you have any good news?
yes. Your gas prices have been cheap this winter of what you have bought and sold. Compared to winters that we saw in last spring. So hopefully that's good for your customers.
Okay. Thank you, Alan. Is there any more discussion?
I just want to make a statement. I'm really pleased that back during the shutdown, when, you know, shortly after the gas line exploded, that, you know, you came to us and we had a call meeting about the potential for significant price increases, et cetera, for our citizens, and I'm really happy that we didn't have to do that.
Yeah, we've done everything in our power to mitigate that.
Thank you for helping us with that.
Any other questions for Alan? Alan, thank you very much. You're
Thank you.
more than welcome to stay, or you can be dismissed this time.
I
Thank you.
believe I will enjoy the cold weather.
Item number 2, Downtown Revitalization Committee Resolution. As you see in your packets, this is a resolution creating the Downtown Revitalization as a committee. It's been operating for many, many years. It's just basically updating to make sure, in fact, they've got one, and so, or that we've got one. 3 names that will automatically be the city mayor, the executive director of the chamber, and a UCDD representative. The ones that appointed was Ray Evans, Arnold Proctor, Diane Sadler, and Shannon Cantrell. That'll be the 7 that makes up the Downtown Revitalization Committee. So this is a resolution creating the Livingston Downtown Revitalization Committee.
Motion to adopt the resolution.
Motion made by Alderman Ken Dodson. Is there a second? Second by Vice Mayor Bill Winningham. Any discussion?
Curtis, I thought this is already established. Why are we establishing those
Yeah,
now?
I think it is, but there's a couple of things that we got. We formed this committee also as a Main Street committee, and we just need to have it on record. And I think it went back so far, Ronald just didn't have record of it, but for Main Street, and also this group has been charged with finding a consultant engineer for the TDOT multimodal grant. So just had to have it for the record. Yes.
The mayor's right that the committee's been operating for, with the blessing of this group for over 10 years. Under the old saying, don't ask the question if you can't stand the answer, the mayor made a very proper inquiry to the folks at MTAS about certain things regarding the Downtown Revitalization Committee, and the answer came back that in fact we operate as an official board of the city, and that if we haven't been made such by this board in an official way, we need to go do that. And also, as the mayor said, there's a requirement in the Tennessee Downtowns program and ultimately the Main Street program to have a board that guides those efforts for the city as well. So this resolution takes care of both of those and I guess formalizes the relationship between the board and the town of Livingston.
So that would clarify then that we possibly been making decisions, this board with your all board illegally for the last 5 or 7 years or so.
The Downtown Revitalization's never been authorized to make any.
No, they come to this board. Now, when this is legal, and we vote on them, are they gonna be able to make individual decisions on their own?
Absolutely not.
What we have been
John
doing,
Mattis?
what we've been doing is simply advising this board. We haven't taken any independent actions, we're not taking any independent actions afterwards at all. One of the changes for this board that I think is an improvement is that will now be subject to the open meeting laws and sunshine laws. And so our meetings will be on the first and third Fridays at 10 o'clock every week, and if there's an exception, and those will be posted publicly, and if there's an exception to that, they'll be posted publicly as well, and we'll be keeping minutes and records of the meetings, and those will be publicly available if anyone wants to see.
John, can you elaborate on that? So,
This board or committee, the only authorization they would have, or authority they would have, is the authority that the city or some state law or statute grants them. It's kind of like earlier tonight, the council voted to establish a property maintenance board.
Right.
Who will be making recommendations and things of that nature. But what Ray is asking the city to do is to formalize something that probably needs to be done, especially if the city wants to continue getting any kind of downtown revitalization grants so that we can pay back for the park and things of that nature. So I think it's just a formality that it probably should have been done a long time ago. And just
correct.
But your question about have they been operating illegally, it's my understanding that any decisions that have been made have been brought as a recommendation from the committee, and the city council has always voted on those things, and I would assume it will continue to do so even if they are formally created by resolution.
Okay, thank you, Alderman Bishop. Thank you, Mr. Evans. Is there a motion to accept this resolution?
I think we had a motion and a second already, didn't we?
A motion was by Ken Dotson. Who was the second? Bill Vice Mayor Winningham. Okay. Is there any more discussion? Roll call vote, Ms. Phillips.
Alderman Cullen,
Yes.
Alderman Dishman,
No.
Alderman Dodson,
Yes.
Alderman Speck,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Winningham.
Yes.
Purpose 4 yes, 1 no.
4 yes, 1 no, motion passes. Item number 3 is an update on T-Dot multimodal access grant. Ray Evans.
Yes, as we reported last time, there is a ton of paperwork to do. It's not uncommon with grants. City staff has been working diligently on getting various forms filled out and paperwork submitted to T-Dot in order for us to receive a contract to be executed. And so that's forthcoming. Also, the Downtown Revitalization Committee has been acting as a consultant evaluation committee, evaluating engineering consultants that will perform the design work and construction inspection work. We received 6 proposals a few weeks ago. The committee has sorted through those. We have shortlisted 3 firms, and those 3 firms will be interviewed in this room this coming Friday morning, and hopefully we will have a firm selected for negotiation, and we'll be bringing that firm to you at your March, this is your March meeting, that's your April meeting.
Thank you for that. Is any questions for Mr. Evans on the T-Dot multimodal grant?
Mayor, should I mention the diabetes grant?
Sure.
So, we had a surprise, I guess on Monday, on Friday. On Friday, that there was an opportunity to apply again for a diabetes grant, similar to the one that we've had benefit of for the last 3 years. And that grant is from the State Department of Health, and it is a non-match grant, 100% grant for $150,000 a year. And so, with hoping that this body would believe that that was a proper thing to do, the mayor and I scrambled, and we got an application in by the end of the day Monday. We found out about it Monday, and we got the application in Monday as well.
Friday. Found out about it Friday, got it in
I'm
Friday.
sorry,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Friday and Friday. And the application in, so we'll see if we're successful. The application would do some additional sidewalk work in the area of the Central Park, and would also allow some additional property to be acquired for some additional athletic facilities in that general assembly as well.
Okay, thank you for your committee's work, for all you do for the city.
So,
Thank you, Mr. Evans. Okay, you've had an opportunity to, next on the agenda is the item number 4, rental rate schedule for events at Central Park. You've had an opportunity to take a look at that. Also, Ms. Cantrell is here to discuss any of this if we need to. If not, entertain a motion.
Motion approved.
Motion made by Alderman Ken Dodson. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Second by Alderman Speck. Any discussion? Roll call, Ms. Phillips.
Alderman Dishman,
Yes. Yes.
Alderman Dodson,
Yes.
Alderman Speck,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Whittingham,
Yes.
Alderman Coleman.
Yes.
5 yes, 0 no.
5 yes, 0 no. Item number, motion passes. Item number 5, accept the bid on annual landscape and turf maintenance. We advertised in the paper, and Better Lawns was the only company that submitted a bid, $19,200, Better Lawns. Is there a motion to accept that bid?
Make a motion to accept the bid.
Second, please.
Motion made by Alderman Chris Speck, second by Vice Mayor Bill Winningham. Any discussion?
Mayor, on that bid, it was herbicide was on that. And my understanding with chicken, with the state, you have to be, certified to do the herbicide, and there's only one person in this town in Overton County that can do it. And my understanding there's only 2 in Putnam County that can do it. 2, how much actual herbicide and spraying of whatever the chemicals that does he do when if the bid goes?
Well,
Can you tell me, or can anybody,
yeah,
how much actually,
I don't know how much, Mr. Dishman, he sprays, but he had his license and brought it down and was, a licensed contractor and is licensed to do it. So I can't tell you how many gallons he sprays or anything like
I'm not
that.
talking about gallons, I'm talking about how much in the area do we really need spraying to have that in the contract, is what I was.
Well, I know we spent,
Is that something the city can do, and so that it can open the contract up to other people?
not without a license.
I know that without a license, is that something the city can do and eliminate that in the contract, is what I'm asking? And
Well-
the city has to have a license, correct? Am I-
Yeah, we do not have a license
I
to
understand that.
spray that. So we are not certified landscapers. We could do the
Didn't
work,
say
but
that.
it would be illegal. So there is a motion and a second to accept the low bid. Is there any discussion? Roll call, Ms. Phillips.
Alderman Dodson,
Yes.
Alderman Speck,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Whittingham,
Yes.
Alderman Coleman,
Yes.
Alderman Dishman,
No,
4 yes, 1 no, motion passed.
4 yes, 1 no, motion passes. Item number 6 is appoint Daniel Elder to the BZA to replace Ms. Wendy Speck.
I make a motion to accept that.
Motion made by Alderman Coleman,
Second.
second by Alderman Dodson. Any discussion? Roll call, Ms. Phillips.
Alderman Speck,
Abstain.
Vice Mayor Whittingham,
Yes.
Alderman Coleman,
Yes.
Alderman Dishman,
no.
Alderman Dodson,
Yes.
motion passed.
Motion passed 3 to 1, 1 abstention. Item number 7, resolution for the Tennessee Municipal Bond Fund This is the 1.8 million loan for the water line improvements going to Hillham, as if you remember and recall, as our engineer came forward and, gonna be laying a new line to Hillham as we did up to Birdstown. This is 1.8 million. We're thinking it's gonna be 3.6 for a total project. Hopefully, we will get a, CDBG grant for the other part, but this is the 1.8. And for the record, we have to go ahead and vote on this.
I'll make a motion.
Motion made by Alderman Ronald Ishman,
I'll second.
second by Alderman Speck. Any discussion? Roll call vote, Ms. Phyllis.
Vice Mayor Winningham,
Yes.
Alderman Coleman,
Yes.
Alderman Dishman,
Yes.
Alderman Dotson,
Yes.
Alderman Speck,
Yes.
5 yes, 0 no, motion passed.
5 yes, 0 no, motion passed. The added item number 8, city employees, Alderman Kelly Coleman.
As you know, Mr. Mayor, and all of those in attendance, our community, the city of Livingston, Overton County, received a historical flood a couple of weeks ago, regretfully, and our community was designated as an emergency natural disaster area. Hopefully, we will qualify, and hopefully there will be some FEMA money coming our way to reimburse some of the efforts. Throughout that process, I just want to recognize some supervisors who, in my opinion and in my observation, went above and beyond to do what the city of Livingston could do to try and prevent further property damage to homes and businesses located in the flood areas. These employees were present, they were engaged, they were out there almost 24/7. As a new alderman, that was my first opportunity to witness firsthand in a situation like that what our city employees are made of. And I want to recognize Wayne Peak, street supervisor. I want to recognize Rocky Dial, fire chief, and I want to recognize Chief Greg Etheridge, police, and all of your employees that work with you every day. I was proud to serve in this role and to see what kind of dedication and commitment I saw from each of you during that terrible period. And regretfully, we have properties, we have homes, we have people who've suffered great damage. And I'm just proud of our city for, quickly coming to try to do what we could as a community to prevent further damage. So I just want to recognize those employees and thank you for the job that you're doing.
Thank you, Kelly. Just want to put on, just for the record, where we are at with that. TEMA will be evaluating all the situations, and including from the private sector, and also our infrastructure, man hours, items that has been rented, and just simply payroll and things of that nature. So we should hopefully get some news by the end of the week, whether or not we have met this threshold for TEMA to come back and reimburse us 80. If this goes back to like it did in 2010, it was 80% of what they would reimburse. The last time the private sector didn't get to, but I don't know if they will this time or not. So those things are being evaluated, and we should know by the end of the week, but sometimes they don't get in a hurry. So let's say the next 2 weeks, okay?
Curtis,
Yes, sir.
I'd like to add that, all the city employees, but I'd also like to add that I appreciate we've got a business here in town that had pumps available too. I know we had to rent them, but Wascon had pumps plus the state, they brought in some out of town, I guess, too. Is that right, Curtis? But
Yes.
How many did Wascon, did we wind up?
I think we got, what did we get, Rocky? 3?
There was 3 from Wascom.
Yeah.
Okay.
TEMA and T-Dot.
Okay, we're fortunate to have Wascon here in town, Kansas City, County, Texas, and being able to have the pumps like that available that quick.
Yeah.
Because I did have some visitors from out of state come through and they were complimenting on the way they were handling pumping the water and stuff properly. They were amazed. They were glad it was being done.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I want to add one thing to this. There's also been a lot of questions asked and folks talking about the flood and, hadn't seen it like this before. What's happened to Dillon Pond? Why is it overflowing in this way? Unprecedented situation. There have been fingers pointed at the city for so-called filling up a sinkhole in the Dillon Pond, which has caused the flooding. If anybody has any questions or needs any clarification of that, an employee who was present and helped do some work in the Dillon Pond back when the city acquired it years ago, you can just ask Wayne Peak and he can clarify that. But in addition, you mentioned that there's going to be evaluations by FEMA, et cetera. I also believe that there will be evaluations done and studies done on the hydraulics of the new road that was constructed in terms of the surface area and the curb and gutter and the storm drainage that's dumping into Dillon Pond. There's going to be a lot of studying done to find out if there are contributing factors that cause the excess water like nobody has seen before gathering in that area. So just to the citizens of our community, I think it's important that they realize that we are aware and it is something that needs to be studied. There are a lot of questions and obviously we can't control Mother Nature, but if there are things that could be changed to try to prevent something like this from happening again, I believe it's warranted to study it.
Yeah, Alderman Coleman also, and I'm glad you brought that up, Charlie Smith, barge wayman of Sumner and Kennon, I think now is the barge design company, came to Livingston through all this flooding and tried to give some helpful tips to help us in the state of emergency that we was in. So he will come back within probably on the April agenda and tell us what his study has found. So that's kind of where we're at, and it will be up to the Board of Aldermen whether they want to react to what the study has found.
I would also like to propose that you formally request that TDOT do a hydraulic study too of the effects of the new road on Dillon Pond.
Yes, sir. Okay, there will be a call meeting on March 13, 2019 with Mr. Daniel Elder to discuss retail liquor store license here in Livingston. So just for the record, March 13, 2019, 5 o'clock, is that what we put in the paper, 5 o'clock, to discuss the retail package store, Mr. Daniel Elder. Is there any other business? If not, I need a motion to adjourn. Motion made by Ron Dishman, second. Chris Speck, all for the motion, let know, saying aye.
Aye.
We're adjourned.